when you get home, how long does it take before things start really changing for you?
I got home. I mean, I noticed the news reports. I noticed the reporting was getting more and more this insurrection narrative. Let's play the tape over and over again. Let's interview the Capitol policeman who says that he suffered terrible injuries. I noticed that they were amping the narrative strongly toward this whole insurrection thing. And I noticed, of course, that they weren't really telling both sides of the story, because I'm like saying, I saw a lot of stuff that didn't look like what I'm seeing on TV, and y'all aren't reporting on any of it. And then I was following it. I think I initially started following it on the NPR database, which was showing how many people were arrested each week, and it would do case updates. It cited all the source documents. And I noticed just like week after week, more and more arrests for a period of time there. And I was like, okay, they've amped this up into something serious. So around February, I called a federal defense attorney and retained him to represent me in through arraignment if anything happened. And I suggested to him, I said, just call him up. I'll turn myself in. And he said, no, that's not done. You just, wait for, they're going to do their investigation, whether you turn yourself in or not. It's not going to make one bit of difference. He had been a federal prosecutor. He had years of experience. He said, wait for them to do their investigation, and then they will come and knock on your door to do the initial contact. When they do the initial contact, you tell them that I want to get with my lawyer, self-surrender. And if I make a statement, whatever statement I make, I'll make at that time. And then hopefully, then the way it was supposed to work was they would call him and he would call me, and then we would self-surrender and go down and do whatever had to be done. As it turned out, a year and a half went by. It was May of 2022. I never got any initial contact. And a bunch of SUVs followed me to work. Now, I worked in a very high profile law firm. I worked in a household name law firm in my city, like commercials all the time, the 800 number stuff, all of that. And so, and it's a large firm, a lot of lawyers. I was in the main office, and I think they wanted to follow me to work and bust me at work for the maximum impact of it, for the sensationalism of it. As it turned out, I happened to turn into a Target parking lot to go in and get some coffee at the coffee shop there in the Target. And I guess they thought, who knows, maybe he's seen us or whatever. And so they decided to rush me then. So I'm walking across the parking lot, talking on the phone, doing my thing. And all of a sudden I'm surrounded by, a dozen vehicles, 24 guys, give or take. I mean, I didn't stop to count them, but it was a bunch of people, local law enforcement, the local fire chief was in on it. Like, jeez. Why? What was I going to do? Take out my Bic and light up the asphalt? I mean, okay. So then they arrested me. They showed me the warrant. I immediately recognized the charges, that what they call the standard 4, which is the entering and remaining, the picketing and parading, the disorderly conduct at the Capitol, disorderly conduct in a restricted area. It's 2 Class A misdemeanors, 2 Class B misdemeanors. And I immediately recognized them, because that's really the starter pack for every Jan 6er. You're going to get those 4, plus they're going to tack on 99% of the time. So I recognized the starter pack, and so I just said, yeah, okay. Don't have a lot to say. I've got a lawyer, like give him a call and get him here. And they put me in the back of the car, took me downtown to the federal marshal's office. And then I sat there, and something kind of interesting there, like I'm there, all the lawyers arrived, including mine. My neighbor Chad's there, his lawyers are there, judge is there, clerk's there, recorders there, everybody's there.
Right.
And they don't convene. I mean, they just don't convene. We sit and sit and sit. Federal marshals were starting to say, I don't understand why they won't convene. Everybody's here. And then the local newspaper reporter showed up, sat down in the gallery, and then they convened, which told me like somebody called this guy. And I found out later he was actually out of town. He was in a location out of town. Somebody called him. He jumped in his car and flew down to the courthouse. So then they granted me a recognizance bond. Same thing for my neighbor. And the local paper published the story literally before I was out of the courtroom with significant background on me, which means what? Somebody tipped this guy. Somebody tipped this guy well in advance where he could either do his own homework or somebody tipped him and just gave him his homework.
Right.
But so they had the whole story on me. I was an injury guy, specialized in motorcycle accidents, and specialized in a lot of good injury law, but definitely liked my bikers, worked with my bikers, and they knew that. They knew all about it. They knew where I'd been to law school. They knew when I was admitted to the bar. They knew the whole story. I was like, wow. I left that courthouse, went next door to the probation office because they supervise you when you're out on recognizance bond, and checked in with them. And she had already read the story before I got out of the courthouse and got to her office.
Jeez. And
I was like, what? And so eventually, it took me a while, but made my way home, and told my family what was going on. Everybody's pretty shook up, obviously, very, very shook up. And the couple of other city newspapers here in South Carolina also went with the story. TV stations all went with the story. For 4 misdemeanors.
Yeah, right. I talked with someone earlier today, and they brought up a fact to their story that they had never once been reached out by big media for their side of the story. Is that also your experience, or have newspapers and stuff tried to get your version?
There was one reporter in Columbia, South Carolina, that reached out to me.
Right on.
And then recently, TV station in Columbia, on the anniversary of Jan 6, they wanted to interview a Jan 6er. They couldn't find somebody. I made them promise they'd be objective. And of course they weren't. They made me look as bad as possible.
Right.
But I shouldn't have done that one. Diamond and Silk reached out to me. I did the Diamond and Silk show, and then you've reached out to me. But no, the local newspaper guys, and they didn't ask me for comment. Why would they need my comment? They can just write a story. The story they've already decided what they want the story to say.
Right. You would think they would at least look at it as an opportunity to get you to self-incriminate yourself. But
if they even know what that is.
Well, that's true. I hear you.
Yeah. That's kind of, that's a lot of syllables for your average reporter these days.
Right on. So you get back, your family's aware of the situation now. Then I imagine your employer probably finds out and probably isn't too thrilled with that.
He saw the online story and fired me before I was out of the courthouse.
Oh, shoot.
And I'd been at that firm for 10 years.
Jeez.
Loyal service. And they dropped me like a hot rock.
Man. Then how long after that? You lost your lawyer's license, right, due to this, or is that incorrect?
Yeah, I was arrested on May 20th, and it seems like the Office of Disciplinary Counsel, the ODC, filed a petition to interim suspend the license on maybe the 23rd, and I consented to the suspension. I didn't consent to any of the allegations. Right. But I just said, I won't fight you on the suspension. Go ahead and put it on interim suspension. Because I thought, I'm the one who brought this down on me. It's not the bar's fault. It's not anybody else's fault. It's me. So, I rather than put anybody in a position to have to argue this and make one side or the other mad, best thing for me to do is just roll with that punch. So I went ahead and consented to the suspension. And I'm still on a consensual interim suspension. This 2.5 years later.
Are you hopeful to get that changed, or are you just kind of done with it at this point?
I'm a naturally optimistic guy, despite myself. I mean, sometimes I look in the mirror and ask myself why, but no, I'm hopeful.
Right on.
So, South Carolina's got a good bar. I'm hopeful. Now, the bar is obviously not bound by this pardon. Trump did pardon me, but the bar is not bound by it. So I don't know. I mean, I don't know what those guys will do. I mean, I can tell you, before I was a lawyer, I would never try to predict what a court what a court or a judge would do. And then after practicing for 10 years, I really don't try to predict what courts and judges will do.
No,
So, but I'm a hopeful guy. I'm an optimistic guy. So I think it'll probably turn around. If not, I don't know.
right.
I'll get John Taffer to show me how to build a bar or something, try a different kind of bar.
Yeah, there you go. I get it. Outside of so you already kind of explained a little bit that the pardon doesn't help you with your law license. You already served your jail time and paid your fines. So did you get real excited when you heard that you got pardoned? Does it really help you?
Well, no, well, yeah, yeah. Obviously, it would have been nice to have been pardoned before I went to prison.
Right.
Yeah, I got 21 days in prison. Ultimately, I appeared before Judge Howell, Beryl Howell. She gave me 21 days incarceration, 90 days ankle monitored home confinement. And I'll tell you the truth, between those two, I'm not sure which one was worse. That might sound crazy, but man, home confinement is way worse than you think it is.
Yeah.
And the ankle monitor hurts your ankle. A lot of people don't realize that thing's painful, and you can't take it off. It's like having this achy thing on your ankle and you can't remove it. But I got 90 days home confinement, 21 days incarceration, about $3,000 in fines, and 3 years probation. The reason the 3 years probation I thought was kind of long,
right?
Considering I was doing all the other stuff. But I think the 3 years probation, I think Judge Howell put that on there precisely to keep me from being able to get my license back. Because typically when an attorney is on probation, they can't get their license out of suspension. Right. Now, when it's all misdemeanor to start with, it's different situation anyway, and that rule may not apply. But I never have found out. But it was nice. It was nice when he pardoned me because I'm off probation. Probation officer called. My probation officer was a guy here in South Carolina. He was very professional the whole time. No complaints about that guy.
Right.
And he called up and said, "Well, case is closed." I said, "Well, okay, I guess that's a good thing." So probation's over.
Right on.
And then, like I said, the rest of the time, I do court bonds. So that's sort of an indirect way that I can help the legal profession, an indirect way that I can help clients. And, I don't know how well you know your Bible, but you might remember David wanted to build the temple and God wouldn't let him. So David stored up materials so that Solomon could build it. Right. That's kind of how I feel right now. I can't build the temple, but at least I can do something positive.
Yeah.
Toward that. So,
yeah. How do you feel